So welcome everybody, those who are in the room as well as those who are watching us online to the Srimad Bhagavatam class. So, sorry. I had the pranam mantras here. I might have to skip through them really quickly. I just wanted to sing some verses glorifying the Srimad Bhagavatam, from which we're going to do major readings today. So this is Srimad Bhagavat Mahima Shrotram by Srila Sanatana Goswami, and we will do the Sanskrit as well as the translations, and we can do it all together. Sarva Shastabdi Piyusha Sarva Vedeka Satphala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya Sarva Lokeka Dikpada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana, Srimad Bhagavata Prabhu, Kali Dhvantodita Ditya, Shri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master, Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun rising in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Shri Krishna. Parmananda Pathaya Prema Varshakshirayate Sarvada Sarva Sevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namastume. I bow down to you who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pour down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Shri Krishna himself. Madeka Bandho Mad Sangin Mad Guru Mad Mahagana Mad Nistaraka Mad Bhagya Mad Ananda Namastute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadhu sadhu tadayin atini chuchutakara hana mincha kadachin mam premna hrit kantayospuraha. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me, always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. So we'll sing the Radha Madhava. Can I have a pair of kartals, please? Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivarodhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivarodhari. Yashoda Nandana Vrajjana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Vrajjana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Vraj Jana Ranjana Yashodan Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Yashodanandana Vraj Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Yashodanandana Vraj Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vraj Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Dhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, from the 8th canto, and I would like each one of you to read it, like taking turns, maybe 5 verses each in the class. And to display that to you, I'll have to end my show here and go up there. So we're going to start from 8.5, 16th verse. And just the translations only. Maybe you can start from you, Kautukarnama Prabhu, with you.
Shukdev Goswami said, when the Asuras with their serpent weapons severely attacked the demigods in a fight, many of the demigods fell and lost their lives. Indeed, they could not be revived. At that time, O king, the demigods had been cursed by Durvasa Muni. The 3 worlds were poverty-stricken, and therefore ritualistic ceremonies could not be performed. The effects of this were very serious.
So who cursed?
Durvasa Muni.
Durvasa Muni, okay. Yeah, read 5 at least, yeah.
Lord Indra, Varuna, and the other demigods, seeing their lives in such a state, consulted among themselves, but they could not find any solution. Then all the demigods assembled and went together to the peak of Sumeru mountain. There, in the assembly of Lord Brahma, they fell down to offer Lord Brahma their obeisances, and then they informed him of all the incidents that had taken place.
So where did they go?
Sumeru mountain.
Sumeru mountain, yeah, into the microphone. You don't get any points. Okay, yeah, please continue.
Upon seeing that the demigods were bereft of all influence and strength, and that the 3 worlds were consequently devoid of auspiciousness, and upon seeing that the demigods were in an awkward position, whereas all the demons were flourishing, Lord Brahma, who is above all the demigods and who is most powerful, concentrated his mind on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, being encouraged, he became bright-faced and spoke to the demigods as follows.
So who cursed the demigods?
Durvasa Muni.
Okay, good. Continue.
Lord Brahma said, I, Lord Shiva, all of you demigods, the demons, the living entities born of perspiration, the living beings born of eggs, the trees and plants sprouting from the earth, and the living entities born from embryos, all come from the Supreme Lord. From his incarnation of Rajoguna, Lord Brahma, the Guna Avatara, and from the great sages, Rishis, who are part of me. Let us therefore go to the Supreme Lord and take shelter of his lotus feet.
Good. Next. You were waiting for a question? I'm just kidding.
For the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there is no one to be killed, no one to be protected, no one to be neglected, and no one to be worshipped. Nevertheless, for the sake of creation, maintenance, and annihilation, according to time, he accepts different forms as incarnations, either in the mode of goodness, in the mode of passion, or in the mode of ignorance. Now is the time to invoke the mode of goodness of the living entities who accepted material bodies. The mode of goodness is meant to establish the Supreme Lord's rule, which will maintain the existence of the creation. Therefore, this is the opportune moment to take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because he is naturally very kind and dear to the demigods. He will certainly bestow good fortune upon us. O Maharaj Parikshit, subduer of all enemies, after Lord Brahma finished speaking to the demigod, he took them with him to the abode of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which is beyond this material world. The Lord's abode is on the island called Shraddha-devi, which is situated in the ocean of milk. There, at Shraddha-devi, Lord Brahma offered prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even though he had never seen the Supreme Lord. Simply because Lord Brahma had heard about the Supreme Personality of Godhead from Vedic literature, with a fixed mind he offered the Lord prayers as written or approved by Vedic literature.
So the demigods were in a dire situation and they go to Brahma, the executive director of the universe. And then what does Brahma do? He starts giving them the solution. What does he do?
Offered prayers.
See that?
Offered prayers.
He starts offering prayers. Yes, very good. And then what is the mode of goodness meant for?
Yeah.
Mode of goodness.
Maintaining this world.
Yes, and to establish what? Go ahead, Kautukarna.
Establish the rule of the Supreme
Establish the rule of the Lord. So that is very important to keep in mind, that whatever you do, ultimately we have to make sure that the Supreme Lord's rule is established. Okay, please go ahead, Prabhu. Yeah. 26, yeah.
Lord Brahma said, O Supreme Lord, O changeless, unlimited Supreme Truth, you are the origin of everything, being all-pervading. You are in everyone's heart and also in the atom. You have no material qualities. Indeed, you are inconceivable. The mind can't catch you by speculation, and words fail to describe you. You are the Supreme Master of everyone, and therefore you are worshipable for everyone. We offer our respectful obeisances unto you. The Supreme Personality of Godhead directly and indirectly knows how everything, including the living force, mind and intelligence, is working under his control. He is the illuminator of everything and has no ignorance. He does not have a material body subject to the reactions of previous activities, and he is free from the ignorance of partiality and materialistic education. I therefore take shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, who is eternal, all-pervading, and as great as the sky, and who appears with 6 opulences in 3 yugas, Satya, Treta, and Dwapar. In the cycle of material activities, the material body resembles the wheel of the mental chariot. The 10 senses, 5 for working and 5 for gathering knowledge, and the 5 life airs within the body from the 15 spokes of the chariot's wheel. The 3 modes of nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, are its center of activities, and the 8 ingredients of the nature, earth, water, fire, air, sky, mind, intelligence, and force ego comprise the realm of the will. The external material energy moves this will like electrical energy. Thus, the will revolves very quickly around its hub or central support, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the super soul and the ultimate truth. We offer our respectful obeisances unto him. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is situated in pure goodness, Suddha Sattva, and therefore he is Ekavarna, the Omkar, Pranav. Because the Lord is beyond the cosmic manifestation, which is considered to be darkness, he is not visible to material eyes. Nonetheless, he is not separated from us by the time or space, but is present everywhere. Seated on his carrier, Garuda, he is worshipped by means of mystical yogic power by those who have achieved freedom from agitation. Let us all offer our respectful obeisances unto him. No one can overcome the Supreme Personality of Godhead's illusory energy, Maya, which is so strong that it bewilders everyone, making one lose the sense to understand the aim of life. That same Maya, however, is subdued by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who rules everyone and who is equally disposed toward all living entities. Let us offer our obeisances unto him.
So we talked about senses, right? How many did we talk about? Which were the spokes of the wheel of the mental chariot?
15.
So there are 10 senses, right? There are 5 working senses and 5 for gathering knowledge. So we'll just keep that in mind. And what was the verse we stopped at? Yeah, 31, right? Okay, go ahead. Ananga.
Since our bodies are made of sattva guna, we, the demigods, are internally and externally situated in goodness. All the great saints are also situated in that way. Therefore, if even we cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, what is to be said of those who are most insignificant in their bodily constitutions, being situated in the mode of passion and ignorance? How can they understand the Lord? Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto him.
So you see over here that they're talking about what the bodies are made up of, sattva and passion and ignorance. So based on what you are made up of, the more mode which is being active, then that is how what will govern your consciousness. You'll be either in the mode of goodness or ignorance or passion, and become a particular type of a human being, right? Based on your consciousness. Yeah.
On this earth, there are 4 kinds of living entities.
How many kinds?
4.
4 kinds. Okay, good. I'm just checking. It's a Saturday morning. Okay.
Who are all created by him. The material creation rests on his lotus feet. He is the great Supreme Person, full of opulence and power. May he be pleased with us. The entire cosmic manifestation has emerged from water, and it is because of water that all living entities endure, live, and develop. This water is nothing but the semen of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, may the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has such great potency, be pleased with us. Soma, the moon, is the source of food grains, strength and longevity for all the demigods. He is also the master of all vegetation and the source of generation for all living entities. As stated by learned scholars, the moon is the mind of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. May that Supreme Personality of Godhead, the source of all opulences, be pleased with us. Fire, which is born for the sake of accepting oblations in ritualistic ceremonies, is the mouth of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Fire exists within the depths of the ocean to produce wealth, and fire is also present in the abdomen to digest food and produce various secretions for the maintenance of the body. May that supremely powerful Personality of Godhead be pleased with us.
Do you want to read? No? You want to read? Okay, pass it on to Kautakana.
Thirty or 36 or...
Sorry, moved it too far.
The sun god marks the path of liberation, which is called Shraddha-devi. He is the chief source for understanding of the Vedas. He is the abode where the absolute truth can be worshipped. He is the gateway to liberation and he is the source of eternal life as well as the cause of death. The Sun God is the eye of the Lord. May that Supreme Lord, who is supremely opulent, be pleased with us.
So where else did we read Sun God is the eye of the Lord?
Brahma Samhita.
Brahma Samhita today, yes. Yeah, Chakshu Eka Savita Sakla. Yeah, go ahead.
All living entities, moving and non-moving, receive their vital force, their bodily strength, and their very lives from the air. All of us follow the air for our vital force, exactly as servants follow an emperor. The vital force of air is generated from the original vital force of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. May that Supreme Lord be pleased with us. May the Supreme Powerful Personality of Godhead be pleased with us. The different directions are generated from his ears. The wholes of the body come from his heart, and the vital force, the senses, the mind, the air within the body, and the ether, which is the shelter of the body, come from his navel. Mahendra, the king of heaven, was generated from the prowess of the Lord. The demigods were generated from the mercy of the Lord. Lord Shiva was generated from the anger of the Lord, and Lord Brahma from his sober intelligence. The Vedic mantras were generated from the bodily wholes of the Lord, and the great saints and Prajapatis were generated from his genitals. May that supremely powerful Lord be pleased with us. The goddess of fortune was generated from his chest, the inhabitants of Pitriloka from his shadow, religion from his bosom, and irreligion, the opposite of religion, from his back. The heavenly planets were generated from the top of his head, and the apsaras from his sense enjoyment. May that supremely powerful personality of Godhead be pleased with us.
Continue.
The Brahmanas and Vedic knowledge comes from the mouth of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Kshatriyas and bodily strength come from his arms. The Vaishyas and their expert knowledge in productivity and wealth come from his thighs. And the Sudras, or outside of Vedic knowledge, come from his feet. May that Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is full in prowess, be pleased with us.
So we see how the different orders of society actually make up the body, the full body of the Lord. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Go ahead, please.
Greed is generated from his lower lip, affection from his upper lip, bodily luster from his nose, animalistic lusty desire from his sense of touch, Yamraj from his eyebrows, and eternal time from his eyelashes. May that Supreme Lord be pleased with us. All learned men say that the five elements, eternal time, fruitive activity, the three modes of material nature, and the varieties produced by these modes are all creation of Yog Maya. This material world is therefore extremely difficult to understand, but those who are highly learned have rejected it. May the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the controller of everything, be pleased with us. Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is completely silent, free from endeavor, and completely satisfied by his own achievements. He is not attached to the activities of the material world through his senses. Indeed, in performing his pastime in this material world, he is just like the unattached air. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, we are surrounded unto you, yet we wish to see you. Please make your original form and a smiling lotus face visible to our eyes and appreciable to our other senses.
So you see the word surrendered comes ultimately in the end. Towards the end of the prayers, he's saying, we are all surrendered unto you. Go ahead, Anpu.
O Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, by your sweet will you appear in various incarnations, millennium after millennium, and act wonderfully, performing uncommon activities that would be impossible for us. Karmis are always anxious to accumulate wealth for their sense gratification, but for that purpose they must work very hard. Yet even though they work hard, the results are not satisfying. Indeed, sometimes their work results only in frustration. but devotees who have dedicated their lives to the service of the Lord can achieve substantial results without working hard. These results exceed the devotee's expectation.
So the results exceed what?
Devotees' expectations.
Devotees' expectations. That's some point to be noted, right? Okay.
Activities dedicated to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even if performed in a small measure, never go in vain. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, being the Supreme Father, is naturally very dear and always ready to act for the good of the living entities. When one pours water on the root of the tree, the trunk and branches of the tree are automatically pleased. Similarly, when one becomes the devotee of Lord Vishnu, everyone is served, for the Lord is the super soul of everyone. My Lord, all obeisances unto you, who are eternal, beyond time's limits of past, present and future. You are inconceivable in your activities. You are the master of three modes of material nature and being transcendental to all material qualities. You are free from material contamination. You are the controller of all three of the modes of nature, but at the present you are in favor of the quality of goodness. Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto you.
So which quality of material nature does God favor?
Goodness.
Mode of goodness. Speak into the microphone, Vinogita.
Mode of goodness.
And by the way,
quality of
as
goodness.
thank you. And by the way, as Vaisheshika Babu says, I'm not a meat eater. I'm a vegetarian. Please come sit in the front rows. Don't be scared of me. Okay, so we'll continue the reading into the next chapter, which is chapter number 6, and we'll do some verses from there. So in the previous chapter, you noticed that there was a phrase that was constantly being repeated at the end of every prayer. What were they trying to do? They were trying to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? Hari Toshanam. Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Vinogita Mataji. We are doing 5 verses each.
Sri Sukadeva Goswami said, O King Parikshit, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, being thus worshipped with prayers by the demigods and Lord Brahma, appeared before them. The bodily effulgence resembled the simultaneously rising of thousands of sun. The vision of all the demigods was blocked by the Lord's effulgence. Thus, they could see neither the sky, the directions, the land, nor even themselves. What to speak of seeing the Lord, who was present before them? Lord Brahma, along with Lord Shiva, saw the crystal clear personal beauty of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose blackish boy resembles a Markata gem, whose eyes are reddish like the depth of lotus, who is dressed with garments that are yellow like molten gold, and whose entire body is attractively decorated. They saw his beautiful, smiling, lotus-like face, crowned by a helmet bedecked with valuable jewels. The Lord has attractive eyebrows, and his cheeks are adorned with earrings. Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva saw the belt of the Lord's waist, the bangle on his arms, the necklace on his chest, and the ankle belts on his legs. The Lord is decked with flower garlands, his neck is decorated with the costume gem, and he carries with him the goddess of fortune and his personal weapons, like his disc and club. When Lord Brahma, along with Lord Shiva and the other demigods, thus saw the form of the Lord, they all immediately fell to the ground, offering their obeisance. Lord Brahma said, Although you are never born, your appearance and disappearance as an incarnation never ceases. You are always free from the material qualities, and you are the shelter of transcendental bliss, resembling an ocean. Eternally existence in your transcendental form. You are the supreme subtle of the most extremely subtle. We therefore offer our respectful obeisance unto you, the Supreme, whose existence is inconceivable.
So the interesting thing is that previously, in the previous chapter, Brahma was praying to the Lord, so he wanted the Lord to appear. So there were some prayers that were going on. And then here the Lord appears and the prayers continue. So that's something that we have to keep in mind, that when you guys are going to see the Lord, you have to remember you have to pray. And we read instances in the Srimad Bhagavatam of the devotee sees the Lord and goes, completely crazy. Like the little throw, when he sees the Lord, he doesn't know what to do, so he just goes and falls on his feet, starts kissing his feet, and till the Lord touches his head with his conch shell, and then he starts praying very beautiful prayers like that. So the Lord has got that effect. Atri Rishi, who was also praying to get the Supreme Person, somebody like the Supreme Personality of Godhead as his son. And but he didn't know who the Supreme Personality of Godhead was. So all Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh, they all come and they appear, and he just also goes crazy. He was standing on one leg and he was praying, and he starts running on one leg, and like that. So seeing God is a very, the scriptures say, is a very interesting experience. So I don't know, we need a little magic from there. Okay, got it. So Venugita, continue here.
O best of persons, O Supreme Director, those who actually aspire for supreme good fortune worship this form of your Lordship according to the Vedic Tantras, my Lord. We can see all the three worlds in you. My dear Lord, who are always fully independent, this entire cosmic manifestation arises from you, rests upon you and ends in you. Your Lordship is the beginning, sustains, and end of everything, like the earth, which is the cause of an earthen pot, which supports the pot, and to which the pot, when broken, finally returns. O Supreme, you are independent in yourself and do not take help for others. Through your own potency, you create this cosmic manifestation and enter into it. Those who are advanced in Krishna consciousness, who are fully in knowledge of the authoritative Shastra, and who, through the practice of Bhakti Yoga, are cleansed of all material contamination, can see with clear minds that although you exist within the transformation of material qualities, your presence is untouched by these qualities.
As one can derive fire from wood, milk from the milk bag of the cow, food grains and water from the land, and prosperity in one's livelihood from industrial enterprises, so by the practice of Bhakti Yoga, even within this material world, one can achieve your favor or intelligently approach you. Those who are pious all affirm this. Elephants afflicted by a forest fire become very happy when they get water from the Ganges. Similarly, O my Lord, from whose navel grows a lotus flower, since you have now appeared before us, we have become transcendently happy. By seeing your Lordship, whom we have desired to see for a very long time, we have achieved our ultimate goal in life. My Lord, we, the various demigods, the directors of this universe, have come to your lotus feet. Please fulfill the purpose for which we have come. You are the witness of everything, from within and without. Nothing is unknown to you, and therefore it is unnecessary to inform you again of anything. I, Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and all the demigods, accompanied by the Prajapatis like Daksha, are nothing but sparks illuminated by you, who are the original fire. Since we are particles of you, what can be understood about our welfare? O Supreme Lord, please give us the means of deliverance that is suitable for the Brahmanas and demigods.
So what sort of happiness did they get upon seeing the Lord? What did he say? Okay, Kautukarma Prabhu is raising his hand. Go, you are on fire today. Yeah, maybe we can have one for each row.
Transcendental happiness.
Transcendental happiness. So all the emotions that we have in this material world have a material and a transcendental side of it as well. And the transcendental is what is the ultimate goal for us. Okay. Maybe, yeah, give him a chance to read, yeah. And where did I leave? I lost the track of the numbers.
16.
16? Okay, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Sukdev Goswami continued, when the Lord was thus offered prayers by the demigods headed by Lord Brahma, he understood the purpose for which they had approached him. Therefore, in a deep voice that resembled the rumbling of cloud, the Lord replied to the demigods, who all stood there attentively with folded hands.
So here when it says that, therefore in a deep deep voice that resemble the rumbling of the clouds, that's how Krishna speaks. So, normally when you describe the body of Krishna, this is what he's wearing, the eyes, this is something that you can imagine. You have seen certain things, you can, form some sort of an idea. But when it comes to how he speaks, or how he sounds, it's always a mystery in my head. Like, like if Krishna was to say hello to you, or Bhadrante. Or what sort of a voice will that be? And when you go to Puri, Jagannath Puri, and there's a temple called Tota Gopinath, and you've been there, so you might have noticed that. So on the entrance of the temple, there's a tree, there's a tamal tree, and Krishna Kund Mataji, who was our guide there, she took me to the tree and said, take a leaf, pluck a leaf from there, and touch the leaf, and she said, this is how Krishna's body feels, So it was a very, very interesting experience for me. It's very, very soft, if you touch the fresh leaves from that particular tree. So I'm just wondering that, if some other Krishna Kund Mataji might one day tell me that, this is how Krishna sounds. So to resemble the rumbling of the clouds. All right, go ahead, Prabhu.
Although the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the master of the demigods, was capable of performing the activities of the demigods by himself, he wanted to enjoy pastimes in churning the ocean. Therefore he spoke as follows. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O Lord Brahma, O Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and other demigods, please hear me with great attention, for what I say will bring good fortune for all of you. As long as you are not flourishing, you should make a truce with me, with the demons and asuras who are now being favored by time. O demigods, fulfilling one's own interest is so important that one may even have to make a truce with one's enemies. For the sake of one's self-interest, one has to act according to the logic of the snake and the mouse.
Yeah, please, one more. That's where I'll stop. Yeah.
Immediately endeavor to produce nectar which a person who is about to die may drink to become immortal.
So we started with the curse on the demigods, and the demigods lost all their opulences, so they go to Brahma for solution to their problem, and Brahma prays and Krishna appears, and what is he saying? He's giving a very practical solution. He's saying that, you guys are in deep trouble. You have a truce. You have a truce with the enemy, the demons and the asuras. And he says that you should now work together. And work together on what? And that is the famous churning of the ocean pastimes that we have. Okay. So I will move over to my slide deck presentation and continue on from there. So taking Krishna's advice, where he asked the asuras, the suras, to cooperate with the demons and start churning the ocean. And this is the one story in Srimad Bhagavatam. Otherwise, all the stories are where people are just fighting, right? And this is one place where the demons and the demigods, they both come together and they work on a particular project. So that's the key message that Krishna is giving. So now when I was small, of course, how there's no kids very rarely cooperate, right? They're always asking things of the parents. If they don't give it, they will cry. And of course, they are big kids as well. So when you're small, parents and teachers have to inculcate that habit of cooperation. If you've got siblings, then it's even worse. Because you take out something and I wanted this and he took it and you gave this to that. So on the siblings, squabbles keep on continuing. So in my school, they used to have regular sessions right after the lunch break, because when the kids are a little bit sleepy. So they would bring out little charts there, and they would have nice pictures, and they were flip charts with lots of pictures, and I really used to enjoy watching them because there was always a story there. Just they would just have the pictures, and showing the pictures, the teacher would tell us some stories there. So from there, one particular story stuck my mind when I was reading this, and this was the story of the 2 pairs of goats. Right? So it so happened that there was a village, and where there were many goats, And in that village, in the middle of the village, there was a there was a river. And on the river, there was a bridge. As you can see, it was not engineering feat like the San Francisco Golden Gate. But it was a very tiny and a narrow bridge, and people, they were not very demanding. They used to use that bridge. And but it was so narrow that one point at a given time only one person could cross. So you couldn't have two on it together. So the two goats. So one goat was crossing the bridge, and as she comes to the middle of the bridge, she sees another goat is coming from that side, and that goat from the other side is watching nicely that and knows the rule also, but she doesn't stop and comes. And they come to the middle, and so the first one says, I climbed the bridge first, I want to go. And the second one says, no, who cares about that? I want to cross. So both of them start fighting. And in the middle of the fight, they're so engrossed in the fight they don't know. And then there's one big kick, and both of them fall into the river and they die. So that was the first pair of goats that were there. And the second pair of goats was again, they both find that they are in the middle of the bridge. And they say like, oh goodness, what are we going to do? So one of them says, no, I'm just going to go back. Then the first one says, no, don't do that. I'm just going to sit down. And you climb over me and, go to the other side. And then we'll continue our journey without much of a delay. So that is what cooperation is. And so today I'm going to talk about cooperation, taking lessons from the scriptures that we have, as we always do. So the word cooperate actually comes from Latin, and which is two words, co, which means together, and operare is to work. So you have to work together. That is what cooperation is. So can you give me some typical examples of cooperation or non-cooperation, if you did, if you're bold? We are broadcasting on Facebook. Any example that comes from your life or any places where we cooperate, or any people that we cooperate with, or like that? Do you ever cooperate? Okay, so give me one example of where you cooperated, or whom you cooperate with. I'll take it.
At work, when you're working with the team members, you have to cooperate.
Cooperate with the team
As a
members.
team
Very good.
spirit.
Yeah. So you cooperate with the team members. Who else do you cooperate with?
In temple, when we do services, we have to cooperate with one another so that we can do our services properly and not hinder into another's.
Very good.
process.
So when you are doing some volunteer work, you have to still cooperate. Okay. Who else do you cooperate with? You don't cooperate?
During reading sessions or during japa sessions, we cooperate with other devotees so that we can have a cooperative,
Very good.
good session.
Very good. And one of the things about about that kind of a session is not to dominate the session and kind of like go with the flow. Yes. Yeah. So do you cooperate with your boss? You have to cooperate with your spouses? Do you cooperate with the doctor? Right? So at every step in life we have to do some sort of a cooperation, so that's something that is constantly going on. But then when we try to cooperate, there is always some friction. It doesn't go smoothly, right? I mean, you said offices. It will never be sweet. It will never be, there will always be a friction there. So why do you think there is friction? Why is friction? I mean, it's so simple. Like you go to office, you're supposed to work, and okay, yeah. And first you, and then you, yeah.
Because of our different way of looking at the same thing or thinking.
Different way of looking at the same thing or thinking. What about you, Prabhu?
It's a individuality which always comes in,
Into picture.
Cause this friction.
Yes. So it's an individuality as well. Good. So and that is what it is. That we have got different personalities. We are different people. And the Vishnu Puran says, Jalaja Nava Lakshani Stavara Laksha Vimsati Kramayo Rudro Sankhaya Pakhinam Dasha Lakshanam Trimshal Lakshani Pashava Chatur Lakshani Manushaha. So basically we are human beings, so we are going to focus on that. We don't know about cooperation among animals, but animals also cooperate. So there are 400,000 species of human life. So we might just say that in this world we are more than 1 billion now. So is each one of them an individual? Like we say, everybody is an individual. Every human being is individual and unique. So is that a species when we talk about 400,000 species? Obviously not, because there are more people than that. So what is this 400,000 species that we are talking about here in the human life? They are actually your consciousness. They are grouped according to your consciousness. And we were reading earlier in the Bhagavatam that demigods had a special kind of consciousness and demons had a special kind of consciousness. So it depends on the consciousness of a person. If the consciousness is the same, then you will be able to cooperate and you'll be able to work together. If the consciousness is not the same, then it will be difficult. So the friction arises because there is a difference in consciousness. And that is also something that is to marvel and enjoy and relish, is that even because the consciousness is the same, you will find that in ISKCON you find people from all over the world doing the same thing. I mean, whether they are from Germany, whether they are from China, whether they're from India or America or Latin countries, they all like Haribol. Haribol means, everybody understands what is Haribol, and they relish in doing that. So it's our consciousness that leads to the frictions that we have, or even to the cohesiveness. And last week when Vaisheshika Prabhu was talking about cooperation before a book distribution planning meeting, he talked about this, and this example struck me a lot. And he said that in one of the devotee appreciation or some picnic of ISV, he gave away, there were some groups to be formed, and a very efficient way of forming the groups was that they gave away wristbands. They said, okay, you take red, and they were randomly giving away the wristbands, and you take this, you take this, and then everybody would go like, hey, what color do you have? What color do you have? Oh, I have a red. And then people would, they form their groups. I am the blue, I am the red. And he said that just by getting a wristband, people kind of, came together, and they were thinking like, oh, we are the red, oh, we are the blue, we are good, we have Krishna's color. So just that one band did it for you. And then this kind of a thing like, I'm American, I'm a European, is the same banding technique that we have there. And because of this banding, you could be cooperating and you could be also non-cooperating because of the banding effect that we have. So then the question is that, I was given a band, and just the process of giving a band formed me into something else, right? Which I had no idea before. So then the question to ask is like, who am I? Right? So there's a basic thing that I have to understand, who am I first, and then I can do the rest of the business in my life, interacting with people, with bosses, doctors, whatever, and so on and so forth. So the little jiva who comes into this material world, who am I? So what he thinks is that I am the Lord of all I survey. Okay, everything that I see, I've come here to this material world to lord it over material nature, because I didn't want to be subordinate to the will of the Lord, right? And so look at Brahma, how subordinate he is to the Lord, right? People come to ask him his day-to-day routine question, like, this is not happening there, demigods are killing us, this and that. He could have, given them a solution. He could have done something. He could have cursed the demons. But he doesn't do that. He goes because he's... So I am the Lord of all I survey, and I am the enjoyer. That's what we think. But let's see what the Shastras tell us. So right in the introduction to the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada clarifies that, he's telling you, hey buddy, you're going to read the Bhagavad Gita, first know who you are. Okay? So somebody wants to read this aloud for me, so that I have a little rest into the microphone.
Material consciousness has two subdivisions. One is that I am the creator, and the other is that I am the enjoyer. But actually, the Supreme Lord is both the creator and the enjoyer. And the living entity, being part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, is neither the creator nor the enjoyer, but a cooperator. So who are we? We are just the cooperator. That is how God has made us, right? God had created. Krishna was all alone, but he's the supreme enjoyer, the Purusha. And he wanted to enjoy even further, so he created all of us so that he could enjoy us, right? And by our cooperation, by doing his will, by serving him with love and affection. And we didn't do that. Thank you. So let's look at some of the examples we find of cooperation from our scriptures. Okay? The first example we already sort of covered in a long way, right? Was the cooperation that the Lord said that the demigods are supposed to do. They said, okay,
You have been cursed, and you could be killed by the demons any time, so why don't you go and get some nectar that will give you a long life? But for that, you have to churn the ocean, and you won't be able to do it alone. You have to cooperate with the demons, and then we will figure it out, who gets the nectar in the end. But for now, churn the ocean, because there were several other things also that Lord wanted to come out. So, and then they did cooperate there. Then we also hear about Vyasadeva's cooperation. Vyasadeva's cooperation is of a different kind. It was not that he had a team member or doctor or anybody was telling them. He had written down the good soul that he is. He had written down and documented all the Vedas, the Puranas, Vedanta Sutras, everything he had written, but he was feeling very melancholy. And his spiritual master, Vyasadeva, Narada Muni, as you see in the picture there, he said the reason that you are not feeling good is that you have actually not glorified the Lord in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And now you sit down and you meditate on the Lord. And so Vyasadeva could have, said something which I normally do. If somebody points out a mistake in what I did, I try to cover that up. I'll come up with so many excuses, so many reasons why I did that. But he didn't do that. He cooperated with the instruction of the Lord, of his spiritual master. Right? So he said, you are okay, spiritual master, you're telling me that I should meditate, and I will meditate. And just by that act of cooperating with his spiritual master, see what happened. Right? He goes into trance. He sees Krishna in the trance, and he sees Maya as well. And then this wonderful Srimad Bhagavatam that we are relishing, and many in the future will relish as well and take guidance from. Then Arjuna also cooperates with Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna actually goes on for one full chapter. It's Bhagavad Gita. It says Bhagavad Gita, song of the God. Krishna is speaking. We say Bhagavad Gita are the words of Krishna. But the first chapter, it's all about Arjuna. He's just talking and talking and talking because he wants to do something and he's justifying it. He's using all kinds of, reasons and reasonings to kind of, justify that he does not want to fight. But then Krishna, when he starts speaking, and Krishna starts speaking only when Arjuna surrenders to him and says that, Shishyasteham shadi mam tam prapannam. And so when he surrenders to Krishna, then Krishna explains the rest of the Gita to him. And then in the 18th chapter, then Krishna still leaves the choice to Arjuna. He says, I have told you all, and now whatever you want to do, you do. But then Arjuna says, yes, I will, Keshava, I will do whatever will is, because he understands what the supreme will of the Lord was. So he cooperates with Krishna in executing whatever was Krishna's will, whatever he wanted. Although in his heart, he never wanted to do that. Right? In the beginning, he did not want to fight at all. But for Krishna, he does it. Parikshit Maharaj. So we know the story of Parikshit Maharaj. He was a special, he had a special relationship with the Lord right from the beginning of his life. Right? He was still in the womb of his mother when the Brahmas was struck by Ashwatthama to annihilate the entire Pandava dynasty. And Parikshit Maharaj was saved by Krishna, who entered into the womb of Uttara to save him there. And he had seen Krishna there as a little baby, as a little embryo he sees there. And then he goes on to become the emperor of this entire world. He was a wonderful emperor. He chastised Kali, so he was very, very powerful as well. But one fine day, in a very unusual way, he gets affected by hunger and tiredness, which is very, very unusual for a Kshatriya. But and he's also separated from the rest of his team while he is out on a hunt in the forest. And he enters a hermitage and he sees that there is a rishi who is sitting there and he's meditating. Now he's a king, and he was a righteous king and a devotee of the Lord as well. So this thing shouldn't have bothered him, but this was act of providence. The Krishna was acting. And so he gets annoyed and starts thinking like, look here, I'm the emperor of this world and I have come into his kutir and he's not even offering me some water, a place to sit, and not welcoming me, and he appears to be in trance, So in disgust, he picks up a little snake and throws it around the neck of the sage. And the sage is still in trance, so it doesn't, affect him at all. And but the sage's son, Shringi, sees that through mystic powers, doesn't like the insult hurled on his father, and he curses Parikshit Maharaj to die. And within 7 days. Now, Parikshit Maharaj himself is a devotee of the Lord, who was saved by the Lord before. So he could have just gone back again to the Lord and said that. Also later on, when the rishi comes to know that his son has cursed, and sends the message to King Parikshit about, feeling so bad about it, he could have gone and met the rishi there, and the rishi again had the power to absolve the curse given by his son. He could have done that. Parikshit Maharaj himself could have done that. He could have also cursed. But he didn't do that. He saw the hands of providence and all that was happening in his life. And he cooperated with the Lord. And I said, okay, you're saying I'm supposed to die, then I will prepare myself to die. And he gives up everything, all his opulences, and goes on and sits in the bank of the Ganges awaiting death. But he doesn't know what he's supposed to do at the time of death. And that's why he asked that famous question, that what is a man who's about to die supposed to do? And the result of that is the Srimad Bhagavatam for us. So there. Devahuti, who is one of the three daughters of Manu, she was an emperor's daughter, right? And the emperor Manu, with his wife, took his daughter because he wanted her to get married to Kardam Muni. Now, Kardam Muni was meditating for many, many years in the forest, and he even meets the personality of Godhead. But somewhere in some corner of his head was a desire to get married. And since the Lord knows everything in his heart, he arranges for a suitable girl to get married to him. So, and that suitable girl was Devahuti. And so Devahuti goes and starts living in the forest with Kardam Muni. Now she's a princess, and princes are accustomed to opulence and a nice way of life, having so many servants to take care of them. But here she serves, she sees the mission of her husband and cooperates with him. Instead of coming and throwing tantrums and saying that, this is not that is not that, I need a washing machine, I need a dishwasher. I'm supposed to go to the river and wash clothes. I had hundreds of servants who used to do it to me. She doesn't see any of that. She just cooperates with whatever was there in her husband's bigger goal in life. And she serves him very meticulously for many, many years, till, she didn't even have chance to put on makeup. She didn't have a chance to put shampoo in her hair. The hair gets matted, and, and her clothes were all tattered and torn, but she was completely in service to her husband. And later on, we see in the story in the third canto that her husband actually builds an entire new planet for her, and builds a nice aeroplane, and they go out and enjoy for hundreds of years. So, but she does cooperate, and because of her cooperation, she finally got 3 daughters, wonderful daughters who increase the progeny, and also she gives birth to Kapil Dev, who is nothing but the incarnation of the Lord. So the beautiful result of, cooperating with somebody who is worth cooperating. So the key thing to keep in mind here is that we just don't go about cooperating with everybody like that. So we have to use our intelligence when we cooperate. So when you cooperate, you have to give something. Either you have to give your time, your money, or something like that. And the height of cooperation, some very impressive story from the Srimad Bhagavatam is the story of the Dichi or the Danchi. And which is that Indra, usually does some nonsense work, and he gets defeated by the demons, and then he goes and runs to Brahma or to the other demigods, and he'll ask for, some way of saving himself. So one of the situations was that there was a demon called Vritasura, and who was causing a lot of havoc. And so Indra was afraid of that, and he wanted some way to kill the Vritasura. So he was told that, what, if you create a weapon from the bones of the Dichi, bones of the body of the Dichi, then you'll be able to kill Vritasura. So these demigods, they go. So there's a little selfishness there. Okay, I don't want to die, so you die. So they go there, but then the Dichi is a very exalted sage. He says, he is willing to give them, but he doesn't give them directly. He first, makes them sit down and gives them some Krishna Katha. So that's what all devotees of the Lord do. Whenever there's a chance of doing some little Krishna Katha, they will do it. So first he gives them some nice knowledge, and then after that he says, okay, I will. And through his mystic powers, he's able to give up his body. And the demigods get the bone, and from which the thunderbolt is created for Indra. So he cooperated with them, in the general interest of the demigods. And this is the dear Vritasura we are talking about, although he is a demon, but in his previous birth, Vritasura was no points for that. Microphone, you have to say that into the microphone. We have got visitors watching us online, and so let's give them a big Haribol. Haribol. Yeah. So who was Vritasura in his previous birth?
In Chitraketu.
He was Chitraketu, right? And we hear the story of Chitraketu and his son dying, and then Angira Rishi and Narad Muni explaining to him the concept of soul and, relationships, don't go after material relationships and things like that. And then he understands that. He pursues a religious life and spiritual life there. And then one fine day he was roaming in his aeroplane, and from the top of his aeroplane he looks into Kailash, and he sees that Shivji is there giving a discourse to a lot of devotees, and on his lap Parvati is sitting. So he finds it like so mind-boggling and so funny that, how can you give a discourse on, obviously Shivji is giving a discourse, got to be on spiritual topics, with your wife sitting on your lap. So he just starts laughing. And it doesn't affect Shivji because he understands the mood of Chitraketu, but the wife gets offended. Parvati doesn't like it and she curses him. And Chitraketu cooperates with Parvati. He doesn't come and explain his explanation and thereby proving Parvati to be wrong in her thing. He just accepts the curse and becomes a demon, because that's what the curse was. And so that's the story of there. And in fact, when he finally goes, and you can see the tiny Indra there sitting on the Airavat elephant, so you can see the might of Vritasura. He was really a huge demon, and Indra with his thunderbolt is there fighting. But even in the fight, he knows, he's a devotee at heart. He knows Indra, and he knows why he has been cursed. He knows why he's there as a demon, and he knows that he will die. And so when Indra is fighting, but he's giving him a good fight because he's a demon. And at one point in time, the thunderbolt falls and flies off from Indra's hands, and which means that, your weapon has fallen down, you're defeated. But he doesn't do that. He cooperates and he says, Indra, pick it up. And then they fight again, and then Indra goes and kills him. So there's a contrast you can see there. Then Prahlad Maharaj cooperation. Oh, the Prahlad Maharaj, who did he cooperate with?
With his father Hiranyakashipu.
So what was it, cooperation? Did he cooperate with his father, or he did not cooperate, right? So this is an example of non-cooperation. So our scriptures also talk about non-cooperation. But there in his non-cooperation also he was subtly cooperating with something. So the non-cooperation was that his father was Hiranyakashipu, who was a demon, and who had put the demigods, and he had conquered all the three worlds. So demigods had actually become his servants. Somebody used to wash his clothes, somebody used to sweep. They were in such a bad condition. And of course, it was like, you all should worship me, and Vishnu is bad, and, I'll kill Vishnu and things like that. But Prahlad Maharaj, because he was a devotee who had heard everything about Vishnu from the lotus mouth of Narad Muni while he was in the womb of his mom, Kayadu. And so he knows about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's a devotee. He wants to perform devotional service. And so one day when his father asks him who's the Supreme, so he starts talking, instead of saying that, Father, you are the Supreme, and cooperating with him, as everybody else was doing, he says, no, Vishnu is the Supreme. And then he goes through lots of torture, through poison, through being thrown from a cliff, to being put in a pit of snakes, to elephants, thrown in front of an elephant, and so on and so forth. But he does not cooperate with Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu puts his teachers to teach him things like politics and things like that, but still, during the lunchtime he goes and starts teaching to his playmates about Vishnu and what they should be doing and how they should be living life and all that stuff. And we know the end of the story, that when Hiranyakashipu gets so angry and he says that, where is Vishnu? You're saying Vishnu is everybody. Is he in the pillar? And if he's in the pillar, let him come out because I want to kill him. And because Prahlad was a devotee of the Lord, and whatever was the rule of the Lord, which we read when we were reading the Srimad Bhagavatam, and we said the mode of goodness is so that you can implement the rule of the Lord. And that is what Prahlad Maharaj was doing. So in his incorporation or non-cooperation with his father, he was actually cooperating with the Lord. So a devotee always cooperates with the Lord and the Lord's will and the Lord's rule. Bali Maharaj's, again, situation, was it cooperation or non-cooperation? And if it is either one of them, then what was it? Who was he that he was non-cooperating, and who was he that he was cooperating with? Apara is smiling. I think she wants to give us the answer to that.
So he cooperated with Vamandev and he non-cooperated with his spiritual master.
His spiritual master. So you see, although when we were talking about cooperation, cooperation, and I was talking about Arjuna making Krishna as a spiritual master and cooperating with him, we have to also keep in mind that whatever your spiritual master does has to be in alignment with what God really wants. And in this case, his spiritual master was, more hovering on the material plane, and he was saying, don't give that, don't listen to him. He's Krishna, he's Vishnu, he'll trick you. But Bali Maharaj had already given his word, and he said, ask whatever you want, and the rest of the story, that by cooperating with Vamanadev, he actually is now controlling the Lord, because Lord now stands outside his door and protecting him there. So we see in the Srimad Bhagavatam, we see stories of cooperation with by all these exalted devotees of the Lord. We might say, like, okay, fine, it's easy for them to cooperate. I'm in this material world, I'm a lowly soul, what do I cooperate? I find it very difficult to cooperate. But this material world actually has been designed in such a way, it's designed for cooperation, right? So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, and all of us can belt it out loudly. Saha yagya pragya srishtva purovacha prajapati anena prasavishyadhvam eshavostva ishtakamadhok. And I need some volunteer to read the translation for that.
In the beginning of creation, the Lord of all creatures sent forth generations of men and demigods, along with sacrifices for Vishnu, and blessed him by saying, be thou happy by this yajna, sacrifice, because its performance will bestow upon you everything desirable for living happily and achieving liberation.
Devana bhavayatanena te deva bhavayantu vaha parasparam bhavayantaha shreya param avapsyatha. One more volunteer.
The demigods, being pleased by sacrifices, will also please you, and thus, by cooperation between men and demigods, prosperity will regain for all.
So the key word here is cooperation, right? Working together. So the way this world has been designed, like you offer sacrifice, if you don't offer sacrifices, the rain will not come. Okay? So we are supposed to do sacrifices, but if you read the Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.38, it says, Iti murti abhidhanena mantra murtim mamurtikam yajate yagya purusham sa samyak darshana puman. So let me see who can grab the microphone the quickest and give me the translation. Please cooperate. As Ramananda Sagapu right from the back says, please cooperate.
Thus he is the actual seer of who worships in the form of transcendental sound representation the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu, who has no material form.
So what happened? We were supposed to perform yagyas, and now we are being told that you should chant the holy names of the Lord. So who switched the gears, Is it the demigod or is Vishnu? Should I offer sacrifices to the demigods or should I offer sacrifices to Vishnu? Right? And we had a hint of that when we were reading the chapters today, but there the essence was mentioned. But Narad Muni, when he was instructing the Patitas, says that Yathataro mula nishachinena tripyanti tatskanda bhujo pushaka pranopaharā ca yatendriyanam tathava sarva aranam achiteja. Looking for a volunteer again? So while we are deciding the Sanskrit, you should be eyeing the microphone. Okay.
As pouring water on the root of a tree energizes the trunk, branch, twigs and everything else, and as supplying food to the stomach enlivens the senses and limbs of the body, simply worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead through devotional service automatically satisfies the demigods who are parts of the Supreme Personality.
Of Yes, a Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that's it. It's out there, laid very clearly and barely in front of us that if you do chanting to the holy names of the Lord, then automatically you're satisfying the demigods as well. And of course, in this particular yuga, that is the rule, because we can't do other things, right? In Satyuga, you do meditation. In Treta, you do sacrifices. In Dwapar, you go to the temples. And but in this yuga, it's like nastyeva, nastyeva, nastyeva gathiranyatha, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nameva kevalam, right? So we are living in a world which has been designed for us to cooperate, because if you don't cooperate, then you won't go anywhere. I mean, the Lord said it very clearly when the demigods went to him, and they said, "Look here, like you are in a soup, and you better cooperate." So they had to cooperate with the demigods, and we are in a bigger soup actually in this material world. So we have to learn to cooperate with the Lord. And even if it is in our mundane life, I mean, what to talk about spiritual life? In spiritual life, we should be cooperating, but even in the mundane life, we do. So the question then is that, why should we cooperate? What is the wrong? What happens if we don't cooperate, right? And what happens when we cooperate? So synergy, we get synergy. And synergy is when when the results, or putting together or adding two things, the result is more than the original things. Like normally 1 + 1 is 2, right? But when 1 + 1 give you a result which is more than 2, then that is synergy. Like we say, 1 or 1, 11. Like 1 and 1 is actually 11. It is not 2. If you cooperate, and stay parallel to each other. Henry Ford said that, coming together is a beginning. So that's what happens in our daily lives. We come together in various ways. You can come. You're starting a new project. You're building a team, right? So you come together. So that is the beginning, right? So you form it, right? Then keeping it together is progress. So you're bringing people together. And remember, 400,000 species. Your teams could have people with a different consciousness. So they won't get along. They won't talk. Right? So keeping together, if you keep together despite all the differences that you have, that is real progress that you have. But then if you work together, that is really success. Okay? Like, you could be nice and pally, you could be Hare Krishna, Hari Bol, how are you, then the pranams and all that. But when you go to the kitchen to cut the vegetables, that's what, like, you took the better knife. I need some space over here. You're going very fast. Wait here, I've come here. I'm cooking. Wait. I've come here to make the Rajbhoga. You took all the space over here. So like that, So when you really start doing some work, that is when the friction really, really starts to happen. And that is what we have to do. But we don't have to feel too worried about that, because we know that this is happening. So if there are frictions in a relationship, they will happen. So when the teams, there are stages in a team, till a team starts really performing. So there is forming, where you put out the job description, and then people send their resumes, and you form your team, right? Like that. So there's forming, and then there is norming, like knowing about you. Can you say some good words about you? Can you tell us about you? So there's norming, you're setting some rules, regulations like that. You're forming, norming. And so now you have been assigned some work, and you have been assigned your workstation, or whatever you have to do, or your knife, or whatever, your utensils in the kitchen, whatever, your books, whatever you're doing. So that's norming. And then when you start to work, there is storming. The storm really starts, and everybody's trying to find their place there, This is how I do it, but this is how I do it. And then you will fight like the goats, the first pair of goats you'll fight, But somewhere, somebody will come, some sage or some senior or somebody will come and then tell you, hey buddies, no, this is not the right way. Why don't you give in a little bit, and why don't you give in a little bit, right? And that is when the team really starts to perform. So it's a manager's duty actually to be aware of this, number one, that this is going to happen. And then second thing is to also enable that the circumstances, the environment in which the team is working, that they come quickly to the level of performing. Like that. And the first thing is the manager has to lead by example. So the manager has to be the leader and not the manager of the team there. So then why don't we cooperate? I mean, one reason is that fine, there is friction, so things like that. But there are other things also that can be at the back of mind. I can think that I can just get away with it, like somebody can come and say that, Shraddha Mataji, can you please sweep the floor, and the person who brooms the temple today is, hasn't come in, and things like that. And I just turn and say, you know what? I'm a pretty senior devotee. I'm older than this person in age. I will just get away by saying, I have rounds to finish. And that's it. What will the other person say? So if I think that I can get away with it, then the Jiva soul will try to get away with it, because Maya is very strong, kind of sitting over here, whispering things in our ears and telling us what to do or what not to do. Sometimes I might just decide that, why should I cooperate? I can still reap the benefit of others. So in a team, in the team that wins the trophy, even if I don't cooperate, the team will be recognized, and I will be part of the team. They'll say, okay, this team comprised of this, and Shraddha Mataji. Everybody will clap, and I didn't even do a single piece of work. So I can still, I might not just cooperate, because I know I don't really have to, even to get the results. Normally people cooperate to get the result from it. You might also decide not to cooperate as a punishment because of the backlog. This person did not cooperate with you, so now we are waiting for the next possible opportunity to pounce on them and say, look here, now I got you, buddy. You didn't cooperate, so I won't cooperate either, right? Like that. Now the interesting thing is that there's also a very nice article that I read over the internet, and this is called The Prisoner's Dilemma. And the prisoner's dilemma will actually tell you that why a person who's thinking rationally might decide not to cooperate, might just decide. So here's a situation where there are two people who have been caught doing some smaller things by the policemen. But the policemen have an idea that, either both or one of them is doing big things, like maybe they are into mafia and things like that, but they don't know which one it is. So they put them, now they caught them, so they're very happy. They found them doing some little thing which allows them to put them into jail. So they have put them in jail in solitary confinement. So this one, Mr. A, prisoner A is here, prisoner B is there, there's no communication between them at all. And as the policemen will do, they want one of them to defect towards them and be the speaker, and then the one who's going to spill the beans. So they go there, and then they say that look here, prisoner A, if you're going to tell me what prisoner B has been doing really, not just this, but what he has been doing, I will, because you become my accomplice, so you will get to have 1 year of sentence, only 1 year, okay, like that. And then this is the same thing, they go and tell the other person also, but then there are other things as well. So he says that, if you cooperate with us, then you will just serve 1 year. And then if you don't spill the bean and that person also doesn't spill the bean, both of them will just get 2 years, right? But if both of them spill the beans, then both of them will be in the jail for 3 years, like that, So our immediate instinct is to, spill the beans. And say, hey, you know what, yeah, that person get, because what I'm seeing is that I'm seeing that, I will get to be in the prison only for 1 year. Let that person go for 3 years, and who cares about that, right? But because you don't know that other person, you don't know what that person is going to see, a person who's thinking rationally will say, what if he also spills the bean? Right? Then both of us will go for 3 years into jail. So it's better not to cooperate with the policeman, because in that case we will get only 2 years of prison. So be satisfied with what you're getting, like that. So sometimes people will think of these situations, and you see that happening a lot in world as well, where people sometimes might not cooperate because they don't understand it, they don't believe in what is being proposed. For example, using refrigerators or using air conditioners or hairspray with aerosol in it, they deplete the ozone layer. I mean, there's no hard and fast and concrete thing that really proves it, but we are just trying to save the planets. And some nations, I won't name them, don't cooperate with that. So you will see. So people do all kinds of rational thinking, but we don't have to think too much, because our approach is entirely different. Our approach is, we always keep Krishna in the center. And Prabhupada actually equated cooperation with bhakti. Right? So when you're doing bhakti, you're actually cooperating at various levels. And Vaishika Prabhu last Saturday said something which I was very impressed with that. He says that areas where we can cooperate, and he's such a positive person, he always sees like, areas where we can cooperate are actually opportunities where we can please Krishna. Right? Normally one would think that, oh, now I have Raj Bhoga duty again today, and that Mataji, she always hogs, and now I'm going to have such a bad day today, and I'll have to tolerate, and I'll have to do this, and I'll have to do that. No, you look at this as an opportunity, actually. So there's going to be some friction, but I'm going to cooperate, and I'm going to, because when you do that, that's when Krishna is really, really happy with you. So unity, we say we stand together, we are a team, we are united, against Maya, against this and against that, right? But the real unity, Bhagavatam says, is that you are attempting to satisfy the Supreme Lord or rendering service to the Lord is the real unity. And that is why Prabhupada says many times that, of course, this is from the Bhagavatam purport, he says that in the material world, such unity is not possible. Point blank, they have said, it's not possible in the material world till you bring in your material life, till you bring in a tinge of Krishna in it, and they know how to properly handle all the friction that you have there. And Prabhupada says that the reason why we have United Nations, right? So many countries are part of the United Nations. I don't know how many, 200, 100, I don't even know how many countries are there in the world any longer. But so they come up, they have agendas, they have meetings, they have all kinds of plans, etc. But they all fail, right? And most of them fail. But the real issues are not addressed. Let's put it that way. And we say the real issues are not addressed because everybody has got their own interests and they don't have a common interest. So unless you have a common interest, then cooperation is not possible. And that is why when we are doing, when we are in Krishna consciousness, he's saying that in Krishna consciousness there cannot be two opinions. It's that clear, it's that straight like that, And which is a very nice thing to actually think about, and I'll come to that later. There is only one goal, to serve Krishna to one's best ability. And Prabhupada's purpose is so loaded as usual. If there is some disagreement over service, such disagreement is to be taken as spiritual. And which is so very powerful. Number one is that there cannot be two opinions. Which also means that if somebody is speaking something which seems to be a different opinion than you, and if that other person is also in Krishna consciousness, there is something that you are missing. So we should approach that in that way, that, why is that person saying this, which is very different from what I think? So go out, sit out, talk it out to them, and then, you will find that because the goal is the same, they were just presenting it in a different way, like that. And then also the goal is to serve Krishna to one's best ability. So sometimes we have problems in our teams about cooperation, like, hey, you're not doing good enough work, you're not working, I'm working so hard, I'm the one who carries the book, I'm the one who puts all the books into the table, you just come and you talk, and you never lift a single box and put it back there, and you never count the books, on doing book distribution. But remember, if you're a team leader, that everybody in your team is working to the best of their abilities, period, And same thing we do and they all are trying to please Krishna, but there will be differences there. Okay? And if at all there are any differences, and differences can be there all the time, and devotees can also fight, and they can get into arguments also, right? But if you see devotees fighting, and you see senior devotees arguing amongst each other, or doing something which appears to be out of what you were thinking, always think that those are actually, they are operating at a spiritual level. Never think like, aha, I found that guy, he was arguing and look at him, he's a sannyasi and he argues. No, those are transcendental things we should, they are above us if you are neophytes in the world. So, those who are actually engaged in the service of Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot be disunited in any circumstance, whether things are hunky-dory, whether things are difficult. In all the cases, we have to cooperatively work together. And this is what makes Supreme Personality of Godhead very happy and willing to award all kinds of benedictions to his devotees. So here's what's in it for me. By cooperation, Krishna will give you everything. You just please him. Right? And when you please him, we read that he will give you things beyond your expectations. Beyond your expectations, right? then again, Vaishaka Prabhu had said that if one is able to use devotional service to tolerate the differences which cause friction, let's learn how to tolerate, and even beyond the toleration, right? So I can just sit there smug and say, all right, fine. This Venubhuta Mataji, she's on my nerves, fine. I'm just going to sit quiet and let her do the work. I'll be in the kitchen. I'll smile. I'm tolerating her. He says, no. But then, go beyond that level where you're saying that I'm tolerating her, but start cooperating, and then go and offer, like, can I chop? Do you need any help? Do you need anything like that? When you do that, that becomes pleasing to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That sort of a behavior when we inculcate that. And we read that earlier when we were reading from the 8th canto, that the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras are all parts of the body of the Lord, right? So the part of the body the parts of the body are supposed to work together, right? If the hand wants to work separate from this hand, doesn't coordinate, legs want to go in one direction, one leg wants to go in another direction, the body is not going to go anywhere, right? So the parts of the body have to work together, and that's why the Brahman and the Kshatriyas are meant to cooperate. And why are they meant to cooperate? For the welfare of the mass of the people. So that is why the Brahmanas tells the Kshatriya how to rule, and the Kshatriyas on their turn, they take care of the Brahmanas by giving them charity, etc., so that their time is freed up so that they can read the scriptures and do patan, yajan, what the Brahmana is supposed to do. And that way, the Shudras, they serve, and the mercantile people, they generate the money for taxes for the Kshatriyas who administrate that. So the spiritual being, and this is from the first canto, 13th chapter, verse number 55. The living being, by his desiring to lord it over the material world and declining to cooperate with the Supreme Lord, contacts the sum total of the material world, namely the Mahat Tattva, and from the Mahat Tattva, his false identity with the material world is developed. And along with his material intelligence, his mind and senses, all these cover his pure spiritual identity. So because we didn't want to cooperate with Krishna, here we are. Okay, you don't want to be in touch with Krishna, touch the Mahat Tattva. We'll put you inside the Mahat Tattva. We'll also give you false ego as an icing on top of it, where you'll start believing that I am this material body. And from there, all kinds of, miseries will start. And we'll throw in our intelligence, we'll give you a mind that will generate all kinds of ideas so that you can enjoy this material, so that you can think that you can enjoy this material world. Right, like that. And then you will be lost, you won't even know who am I. Like that. So the preliminary qualification for entering into the devotional service of the Lord is that one becomes a willing cooperator. You have to be a willing cooperator because you have free will. So Krishna didn't want to force anything on you, right? And as such, one should voluntarily cooperate with persons who are already engaged in the transcendental devotional service of the Lord. So this directly affects us because we are into devotional service and we come across devotees, and it is clearly being said that you should voluntarily cooperate with persons who are already doing devotional service. Right? And you will get benefit out of that. It's going to please Krishna, and then see what happens. By cooperating with such persons, the prospective candidate will gradually learn the techniques of devotional service, and with the progress of such learning, one becomes proportionately free from the contamination of material world. So the more you do serve the devotees, the more you will be freed from the material association. Such purificatory process will establish the prospective candidate in firm faith and gradually elevate him to the stage of transcendental taste for such devotional service. That taste, the ruchi for devotional service. Because right now we don't have ruchi, right? We are practicing, except for Ramananda Sakha Prabhu in the back. I can vouch for that. He has real taste. And maybe some of you that I don't know. So then he will acquire, when you develop a taste, that will lead to Adau Shraddha Tata Sadhu Sangha, that route, right? And then you will acquire a genuine attachment for devotional service of the Lord, and his conviction carries him on the point of ecstasy just prior to the stage of transcendental love. And we were talking about different kinds of feelings that we have: transcendental joy, transcendental this, transcendental that. So this will take you to the stage of transcendental love. There. And if you want to see in this material world, you want to see an example of cooperation, you should see the cooperation of the senses. Now, how many senses are there? 10 senses, right? We read that in the morning today. So 10 senses, you want to see how they cooperate? I will give you my example of how my senses cooperate. So I've got very sharp ears. I can hear any little clutter there. So the ear is hearing that there is some clutter, something, somebody is, doing something with the utensils in the kitchen. You hear the sound, what is it? The mind, which is the sixth sense, will say, what is that? Maybe somebody's cooking something nice. So the nose will go like, I can smell somebody's, frying besan in good asli ahimsa ghee. So the next sense has come into picture. So then the karmendriyas will volunteer, the leg will say, let's go into the kitchen, let's go there, Complete cooperation, so you'll go there, and then you will, reach out, and you see that other person has poured the sugar into it, like, wow, halwa in the making. So your hand will go, touch it, and, taste it. There you go. The bhoga is completely spoiled because you ate it, but that's what the materialistic people do, right? So you had your ears, you had your tongue, you had your nose, you had your legs, you had your hands, and then the tongue again, and you ask a question, and things like that. It's complete cooperation between the senses. They are your worst master here, okay? So they do that. But the Mukund Mala Stotra is telling you something different. Again, to do with the senses, but in a different way. So it says, Jivhe kritiya keshamam muraripum cheto bhaja sridharam pani dvanda samarchaya chutya katha shrotra davya tvam shrunu krishnam lokaya lochana dvaya harir gachangri yugamalayam jigragraha mukunda pada tulisim murdham nama adhokshajam. So what this Mukund Mala Stotra is saying is that, O tongue, praise the glories of Lord Keshava. O mind, worship the enemy of Mura. O hands, serve the Lord of Shri. O ears, hear the topics of Lord Achyuta. O eyes, gaze upon Krishna. O feet, go to the temple of Lord Hari. O nose, smell the tulsi buds on Lord Mukunda's feet. O head, bow down to Lord Adhokshaja. And so the poet is ordering each of his senses to cooperate in serving the Lord. And the poet is the poet soul, of course, right? The spirit soul is higher than the senses. And the Bhagavad Gita has, talks about the hierarchy. Lowest are the senses. Above the senses is the mind. Above the mind is the intelligence. And above the intelligence is the soul. So the soul is telling you, hey, and that is how it should be for us as well in this material world, because you know how nicely they cooperate against you. So Srimad Bhagavatam, again, it compares from Beyond Doubt and Illusion, the chapter on Plato, where Prabhupada is commenting on Plato's philosophy. The Srimad Bhagavatam compares the 4 divisions of society to the different parts of the body, the head, the arms, the belly, and the legs. Just as all parts of the body cooperate to keep the body fit, in the ideal state, all sections of society cooperate under the leadership of the Brahmanas. So I just wanted to emphasize here, and the reason I built up here is that it is also the onus of the leader to build a team that cooperates nicely amongst each other. And Prabhupada says a very nice thing, is that we were talking about your cooperation, but he says, Shrunvatam swakata Krishnaha punya shavana kirtanaha hridyantaso hiya bhadrani vidhunoti shruhit satam. So he's saying that if you listen to Krishna Katha, as you are doing right now over here, then vidhunoti shruhit satam, that it is going to cleanse your heart from all the abhadranis. Who is going to cleanse the heart from all the abhadranis? Who is going to do that cleaning? What is the word here in this paragraph that talks about who is cleaning it for you? Who's your vacuum cleaner? Who's cleaning your heart? Does it say Krishna? What does it say? Into the microphone, if you have a word. Who's the person? Yeah, go ahead.
The holy name, which
the Srimvatam Swakatha. Okay, yes. And then in the last line also there is a word that is talking about Vidunati. Who is doing the Vidunati? Suhrit. Suhrit means your friend, your well-wisher. So Krishna as your well-wisher will do the cleaning for you, right? Will do the cleaning for you from within your heart, all that. So that's what Prabhupada is saying, that if you simply hear about Krishna, then if you try to understand Krishna as directed by Krishna, then Krishna will also cooperate with you. So you cooperate with Krishna, Krishna will cooperate with you. And Krishna and his devotees are non-different, so you cooperate with your devotees, Krishna will cooperate with you. Right? So that desire has got to be in our mind that I'm going to cooperate with Krishna's devotee, and I'm going to please Krishna by doing that. Now, some of the essential ingredients that we have to remember is love and trust. That is very, very important. If the love and trust is not there, people will not cooperate amongst each other or with the leader. So it's a duty of the leader, again, to have to gain the trust by his own example, be acharya. And that's why, when Prabhupada came here, people just loved him, because they would see Prabhupada loving them. Who stands at the age of 70 and cooks, prasadam and samosas and like that. But he did that. He was so caring for his disciples. Every Prabhupada disciple that you talk to, they always say that he was so loving and so kind and so gentle. So he gave all that, and by his example, by the way he lived his life, he also got their trust. So that's very important to have that. What are the obstacles in that? The first obstacle is entitlement. I am this, therefore this, and this. I am initiated, that's why, so you should not ask me to chop vegetables, like that. I am the president, I don't sweep the floors, like that. So entitlement, when you think that I am something, then cooperation will go down. I am the manager, I am more senior, things like that. Desire for recognition, that can also be an obstacle, right? And the desire for recognition, this obstacle is actually played upon a lot by the management these days, especially in the corporations. And by the way, the word corporation has got a relationship with cooperate, and which is cooperation means where people come together in a corporation and they work together. How will they work together without cooperation? But this desire for recognition is played upon by the management, and they will say that, okay, here's a product we have to develop, and instead of giving guidance and putting the right people there, they will just say, okay, you develop a product and you also develop the same product. So you are setting people up for failure, because you're going to choose one of the products. So one team is definitely going to lose, and that is not how it should be done. So even when you are setting up goals for your team, it is better to set a goal that is achievable, right? We talked about goal planning smart, right? So they have to be realistic. So set realistic goal. And even though you know that if your team is able to perform at this level, you set the goal at this level, because then they will smash the goal. Because teams will do, because their love is there, the trust is there. And believe me, when I was working with the corporate book distribution team this past marathon, I was just amazed and floored completely with, there was a time when I was saying that I don't want the team to go collect more Lakshmi, but they were saying we want to. And although I said no, they were saying they want to. So, that was extreme, joyful situation for me. Competition can also become an obstacle. When you hide things and you don't tell things to everybody, and you got that logic in your mind and you're not telling, and the other person is failing, not able to perform and do his piece, when you go and say, or somebody is debugging the code and you see that extra comma over there, you don't tell him that. So, or how did you cook the food, and you are like, yeah, it's a recipe, it's very simple. But I like what you made. I'm not going to tell you the recipe. No, like that. So there's competition there. But remember, competition is there in the transcendental world as well. For example, the cowherd boys, when they are playing with Krishna, they have a competition. Who's going to go and touch Krishna first? So there will be competition everywhere, and it's a nature of the soul to do that as well. But the thing is that how will I know that the competition that I'm feeling in my body right now, is it transcendental competition or is it material competition? Right? How will I know that? So transcendental competition is something where somebody is better than you, or has achieved something that you wanted to achieve maybe, and you don't feel envy in your heart. Your heart doesn't twist, and your blood pressure doesn't go down, and you don't start, willing that I wish that person died because he made better something than I do. You actually feel happy for that person. You feel very, very happy that, this person did this for me. Has got the skills to do this, right? Skills to make samosas, and then say that that skill is coming from Krishna, and so this person must be a devotee of Krishna to have made such wonderful pineapple halwa or whatever, that is there. And then you admire that person, and once you start admiring that person, when you appreciate some person, what happens? That person's good qualities come into you. So there is a transcendental thing that you also want to do, and maybe you want to excel, and that's fine. Yeah, I want to make better samosas with that person, but you're happy that that person made good samosas or good, gulab jamuns or, good pani puri or whatever that is there. So, extreme cooperation. I'm just going to end with that. Extreme cooperation. So there is team, forming, norming, storming, conforming. We know, thinking of Krishna. We work for Krishna. She's working for Krishna. He's working for Krishna. I'm going to do that as well. And I do it, according to my means. And but then people sometimes go to the extremes. The overperformers, they are there, right? The outliers. So extreme, what is extreme cooperation? So we cooperate with Krishna, that we know. So whatever we do, Krishna is the center for us. And that will make your life very simple and your decisions very simple in life. And so when we are trying to please Krishna, we're trying to cooperate with Krishna. So when we want to do the extreme level of cooperation with Krishna, what exactly is that? That is surrender. When you surrender to Krishna, that is the extreme of the cooperation that you do with Krishna, where you say, Krishna, whatever you want me to do, I will do it. And the Hari Bhakti's Vilas says, and which is also in the Bhagavad Gita 13th chapter, Anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulasya varjanam rakshishyati iti vishvaso gopitritve varnam tatha atma nikshepa karpanya shadvida sharanagatihi. So there are the 6 parts or 6 limbs. One is, and can each one of you just, read it aloud? I want everybody to read it together in the class, because this is really important, because we have to ultimately surrender to Krishna. Okay, all together. Accepting everything favorable, discharge of devotional service, rejecting everything unfavorable to devotional service, being convinced that no one can protect him but Krishna, accepting only Krishna as his maintainer, not demigods, being conscious that his desires are not independent and that unless Krishna fulfills them, they cannot be fulfilled, always thinking himself as the most fallen so that Krishna may take care of him, are the 6 limbs of Sharanagati, which is complete surrender to the Lord. So today I'm going to summarize what we talked about. So we talked about what is cooperation. We started, but it's a Latin word. We took some examples from scriptures of cooperation. We also saw the benefits of cooperating amongst each other. We talked about how senses cooperate, Shraddha Mataji's senses. We also talked about why we do not cooperate, reasons people might not want to cooperate, and we also talked about the dilemma of the prisoners there, which comes as part of the game theory there. We also talked about essential ingredients, love and trust. We also talked about obstacles to cooperation. And cooperation of senses, I repeated them twice, they are that bad. Then we also talked about cooperation with other devotees, because they are also serving Krishna, whom you want to please. And we talked about the ultimate cooperation, and that is Sharanagati, surrender unto Krishna. So I will stop here. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening to the Krishna Katha, those who are in the classroom and those of you who are watching us online. It's time now for maybe a minute and a half or 2 minutes there to do a reflection. So anything that you heard, I don't think I'll have time for questions, but I'll be available here to answer your questions. But anything that stuck your mind, reflections are, as Vaishya Prabhu say, they're very easy. You just have to say what you heard.
Thank you, Shraddha Mataji, for a wonderful class. And we have an online comment from Radha Prabhu. He is saying that from Bhagavad Gita, he is quoting, boss, not servant, Iswaro aham bhogi. In Bhagavad Gita 16.14, saying that, where Krishna says that boss And then he's telling about cooperation, that His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj gives the example of redwood trees.
Yes.
Don't have deep root, but their roots are entangled with roots from nearby trees.
Very good. Yes, very good example. Ishroham amam hogi, where he says, I'm the Lord of everything I survey, and this is my enemy and I've killed him. That particular chapter is my favorite because all the demonic characteristics are described there. And when I was reading Bhagavad Gita for the first time, I met all the characteristics there, and that's when I got scared, which is good. and took shelter of Guru Maharaj. And also about the redwood trees. So sometimes, you might not have your capabilities, but synergy is there. Your skills and other person's skills, they combine together. 1 and 1 gives you 11. And about cooperation, Vaishaka Prabhu also gave that example of how the geese, they fly when they are doing a migration. They fly thousands of miles and they always fly in a V formation because that's better from the laws of physics. And they always, he said, they always honking. So they're always encouraging. So these are some of the things that the leader has to do. And we see that a lot in Vaisheshika Prabhu. You do just little, and then he will appreciate that to the heavens there. So they keep on hankering. And not only that, like if a geese is left behind, then few others will go and encourage him so that he comes and joins back the team. And which is very important for us to do, because we might find people falling down in devotional service and just pointing fingers at them or being happy that they fell down. We should really be like the geese and stop back, give them some extra energy or extra encouragement or extra time, and then bring them back into devotional service. So that's also there. Yeah, thank you so much, Radha Venkat Prabhu, for sharing those wonderful thoughts. One more reflection before we have to call, yeah? Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Anything else that you heard? And if there are no reflections, then we'll just do Kirtan for a minute till 10 o'clock, okay? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Gopremanande, Hari Hari Bol. Thank you so much, everybody. Vanchikalpatrubhyacha, Kripa Sindhubhyacha, Patitanam Pavnebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha.
Hare Krishna, Shraddha Mata Ji ki Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.